Good morning, everybody. Welcome back or welcome to the Debate Club. This is a platform where we engage in healthy debates and discussions every week. And the topic for this week is socialist and secular must be removed from the preamble. Agree or disagree? To set the context, I will give you some brief points on both the stances so that you guys get like a common understanding of what's going on in here with the topic. The people who agree that socialist and secular should be removed from the preamble of the Indian Constitution argue that these two terms were added as per the 42nd Amendment of our Constitution, and the original framers of the Constitution may not have intended for these terms to be there in the first place. So removing them would mean that the Constitution is being restored to its original form. And these two terms, socialist and secular, namely, are quite ambiguous, and there is a chance that misinterpretation of such terms may lead to a lot of confusion and a lot of misuse potentially. So, taking these off would mean more clarity in terms of understanding what the preamble means. And then, socialist and secular can be seen as aligning with specific ideologies, political ideologies, if you will. And that means these are not neutral, according to the people who argue that these terms are supposed to be removed for a more neutral or equal constitution. And then there is the focus on fundamental principles, which means that removal of socialist and secular, these two terms, from the constitution would mean that the constitution will now be able to uphold properly the core principles of the Indian Constitution, that are basically democracy, justice, liberty, and equality. And then there is the other stance where people disagree that these two terms should remain in the preamble of the Indian Constitution. So people who are of this perspective argue that these two terms reflect the modern values of the Indian society or the Indian public, because these were added by the 42nd Amendment, and amendments are just revisions of the constitutions that come up as time goes on and as changes are required. So people who disagree that these should not be removed argue that the Indian society is the reason why these terms are there in the preamble in the first place, and these emphasize the commitment that the constitution has to social justice and religious equality or neutrality, if you will. And then secular means that the state does not have a national religion. So this gives people religious freedom and prevents discrimination based on religion. And socialist emphasizes social and economic equality inside the country. There is also the legal and social framework that these two terms provide to the government while it frames its policies and actions. So with the presence of these two terms, the policies and actions taken by the government are made sure that these policies and actions are not religiously inclined towards a certain community, or they are not socially discriminating against a certain class of people inside the country. And end of the day, India is a very diverse country, and India does not have a homogeneous culture. It has a variety of cultures, religions. We have all heard of the term unity in diversity, right? So, socialist and secular underscore the importance of maintaining harmony and equity among all these diverse sections and diverse cultures that we have inside the country. So, with that context in place, I now declare the floor open for debate. People who wish to speak will have to use the reaction button to raise their hands, and speakers, please also keep an eye on the timer. Thank you so much. And I see Uday raising his hand. Uday, please go ahead.
Thank you, Rose, uh, for letting me speak. And I would like to start with that. Um, of course, uh, of course, the word socialist and secular were added in the 42nd constitutional amendments. But if any one of all these speakers and all who is attending this meeting have any one of all of us have read the Constitution. And if we read the Constitution, so first of all, let's talk about what is a preamble of a Constitution. And this was also a Supreme Court case and asked this, what is a preamble of Constitution, whether it is a part of, whether it is a integral part of a Constitution or not. And so preamble is just a crux of Constitution. We could say that a preamble is a summary. It was also said that preamble is a summary. So, if you read the Constitution, Constitution is itself secular, and there is many provisions which are socialist in nature. So, whether we should the amendment which was made, 42nd Amendment, and those two words, socialist and secular, were added in the Constitution. Both we can say that they are uh, if they have not, even if they have not added the summary of a constitution, a person, if any literate person would make a summary of a constitution, they would say that our constitution is socialist in nature and secular in nature. And I can also assure that there are many provisions in the constitution that supports that claim. And let me give you some. First of all, let me clarify the word socialist here. And if we look at the word socialist, the uh, meaning is that the distribution of wealth should be it's socialist refers to some people say it's an ideology, and some also think it as a larger perspective and larger term which is being used in most constitution of the world. So it basically shows the socialist is a form of government which has a goal in mind to uplift its people and distributes its wealth equally, and basically having a welfare government, welfare state. It is a goal of a government, a socialist government. And for secular, our constitution is secular. Everybody knows that there are many articles which says our constitution is secular. So let's start with socialist. So there is a article, Schedule 3 of a constitution, which is directive principles, states that you know these are the directives which are given to government, that government should be run like that. So in these directive principles, we could say that there is a directive where government is advised to redistribute its resources to needy people, and it's also that some key industries like banking and public sectors should be under government. It is also advised. There are also provisions for equal rights, and many concepts of welfare is also added in this DPSPs, which is Directive Principles or State Policies. So, in a way, we could say that our constitution already provides with so many articles which supports that our constitution and our country, or basically we could say the constitution is a country because our country runs by through the constitution. It's a fundamental book which explains what India is and what rules by which India should be run. So our country and our constitution both are socialist, because I said that there are many articles. I've just given you the a number of articles. Let's say Article 25 says sorry, Article 39 says certain people and policy settle principles of law. And let me tell you about secular. So let's start with Article 15. Article 15 there is in Constitution, which is also a fundamental article, fundamental rights. It says that there should be no discrimination on the basis of caste, creed, race, and sex and place of birth. So in which we could say they mentions that there should be no discrimination on based on religion. Article 26 also says that the people have a freedom of religion. Article 25 also says that people have freedom of conscience and uh, profession of their religion and propaganda of their religion. So I believe that I believe that these two words, socialist and secular, were added in constitution. Should we remove it? I don't think so, because even if we remove, the constitution itself is socialist and secular in nature. So what's the point of removing them from preamble? And uh, conscience and the crux of the Constitution is secular. They are it's a fundamental thing of a constitution, and secular and socialist. So that's the thing I want to say. And thank you for letting me speak. Handing over to Rose.
Thank you so much, Uday. I agree with especially the concluding remark that you made, that should they be removed? No, and even if they are removed, it does not really make much of a difference, since the core values of the Indian Constitution itself are secular and socialist in nature, right? And the preamble is basically like an introductory statement of the constitution that reflects whatever it is, like all the core values of the constitution, what it upholds. It is just a reflection of that. Plus, even if you were to take off secular and socialist from preamble, the preamble is not enforceable in court anyways. So yeah, thank you so much, Uday. Next up will be Sachin.
Good morning, everyone. I have slightly different opinion from the last participant. I believe socialism must be removed from our preamble, and but I agree that secularism must be there, and I will present my arguments for that. See, uh, truth of the modern world is capitalism. So we need to induce a capitalistic culture in our society, because if we completely be socialistic, we are missing out on economic opportunities. Like if we are socialistic, we have less competition for businesses, and as businesses prefer capitalistic societies, and they have less pressure from society. So I believe socialism must be removed, as it will as it will have returns in, uh, as government will make policies according to capitalism. If we remove it, government will get more freedom, and as capitalism culture increases in our country, uh, motivation for investments and will increase, and more jobs will come into the market. So I believe socialism must be removed, so we can uh, attain more economic strength. A very good example of is that us is completely capitalist society, and that everyone support capitalism, and that's why US is very economically very strong because of innovation and a lot of investments from capitalists. So I believe socialism must be removed, and we should focus on capitalism. And about secularism, I think we should not remove secularism word, because it represents modern India. We need to provide safety for each and every community. If we remove secularism, it will make uh, minorities very scared, because they feel protection by this secularism nature of our constitution. It protect minorities, and it gives them belief that they are safe, and it gives religious freedoms to everyone in our country, which is very much important, as we are a very diverse country, and we have a large populations of different minority communities. So I believe secularism must not be removed, and uh, that's my conclusion. Socialism must be removed, but we should not remove secularism. And I would like to hear from my other participants from meeting, and hand over to. I am done.
Thank you, Sachin. Very interesting
Uh,
perspective you've got.
Rose, I would
Next up,
like to.
wait, who's
Hello,
speaking? Yes, Uday.
I'm Uday. Uday. I would like to reply because he mentioned me, and I guess his 2 minutes are left. So I would like to.
Yep. Can you conclude within those minutes,
Yes,
like
yes,
the leftover
yes,
time?
yes.
Sure.
Yes, I could. So basically, I think Sachin is misunderstanding what socialism mean. Socialism doesn't mean about industries. We are not talking about industry. We are talking about the government. So, and he also mentions about USA. So, socialism, we are not talking about socialism of industries. We are talking about government. What does that mean? That we should be having a socialistic government. That means that a government which is in favor of and welfare of people. There should be some industries, let's say railways is there, defense is there, some industries which are solely government owned. And he also gave me example about USA. So if we also read the constitution of Europe, there is also a provisions of socialism. They also have a public distribution system. They also gives healthcare benefits to their citizens, and they also have we can say that different kind of government schemes. So socialism in government means we should have a schemes that uplifts the people, that in fields of education, healthcare, and other fields. So it's not just about industry or capitalism. Socialism in constitution is about, you could say that it's about the type of government which helps people and which is for the people, for people's benefit. So that's what I want to.
All right. Thank you, Uday. Prince, you're up next.
Yeah, thanks, Ravi. So first of all, great points by the previous speakers. I'll just add to what others said. Okay, so in our preamble, it goes by uh, constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic state, and we all know every word in the constitution has its own worth, and preamble is nothing but just a summary, as said by the previous speakers. Now, a nature of a state or a nature of Indian state cannot be socialist or secular because we do not follow the Western definition of either socialism or secularism. Socialism in itself is a political ideology. And we, on the other hand, follow Gandhian socialism, which Uday was defining. If we go by the Western definition, then socialism is nothing but the means of production should be owned by the government. There should be a violent revolution where the labor class should revolt against the capital class. And the Indian form of socialism does not believe in this economic determinism or the idea of this violent overthrow of the capitalist class. So I don't think the nature of our state should be very localized to just uh, let's say one ideology. I guess India, as diverse as it is, should have a pretty open economic model, and that should be shown through our preamble as well. Additionally, the provisions of the secular provisions and the socialist provisions are sometimes added, whether it's Article 39 or Article 40 or socialist ideas in the Article 44. Sorry, secular ideas. But these are not something that defines the Indian state. And I guess we should also give some credit to our forefathers who deliberately kept those words away from the nature of state and only had political ideas like sovereign democratic republic that defines the nature of how our government works and how it will function in the preamble. Now, keeping them is not as such a big issue or not because uh, I don't think it really matters because it's non-judiciable and all the rights are already given in our preamble as said by Uday as well. Yes, it could be a huge PR issue, but when we talk of secularism, there also, I don't think India uh, even claims to have followed the Western idea of secularism. We came up with our own idea where we do not support the atheistic state nature of complete non-exclusive nature of the state and religion. I guess we are more of a we are more of a balance factor, and we try to not give any religion any special provisions, or at least allow all the religion uh, uh, practice their ways of worship in our state. So I don't think it really matters much, but yeah, um, to a political ideological sense, I don't think it makes much sense to have these two words in our preamble, as these are the introductory defining nature of our state, and we should not firstly confuse the whole world with our own definition, as I'm sure there were some international relations issues also associated with adding this socialist word into our preamble. And yeah, I guess it's just a non-necessary word which holds, to be honest, no impact into the way of the conducting of our nation here.
Thank you so much, Prince. Ved, please go ahead.
Hello, Rose. Hi, everybody. So, I would like to mention that first of all, this is my first debate. So, please let me know if I make any mistakes or if I do anything. And yes, going ahead with my part of speech. First of all, I would like to add that yes, I am with the part that I we need to remove the words socialist and secularism from the preamble, because first of all, as everyone mentioned, I guess many of the contestants before me have mentioned that they were added after the amendment, and yes, that's true. Also, this was added during the time of emergency, during the time of Indira Gandhi, without much discussion or without much debate. So there was not exactly any discussions around them. It was just added. So what I feel is it was just added to ease the situation currently that was present in India, to show that yes, India is socialist and secular, but that was not actually the situation which is present. And what I feel is if we are still having the debate on this thing, that means we still not have achieved those things yet. The secular and the socialist thing, what we have aimed. What I feel is these words were needed when India just had got the independence. India just had its own government, but after, let's say, 67 years, 65 years, I don't think these words should mean anything. These words should have already worked, and their method should have already worked till now. So I don't think these are needed. Then, coming to the part of the word socialist, what I feel is socialist, what according to me means is there are 3 to 4 points that get covered in the word of socialism. So first of all is that distribution of wealth among equally among the rich and the poorer sections of the society. Then having everything controlled by the state controlled economy or the industries. And yes, so these are 1 to 2 things that come under the word of socialism, but I don't think we have yet followed these things. There might be some policies, like in Maharashtra itself there is some policy, Ladki Bahin Yojana, in which money is divided to all the women, but I don't think that scheme is working. It was just for gaining some votes from that part of the section of the society, but they have not never ever worked. So the so and yes, also privatization, as we have seen from many years, things have worked great. They are amazing. India's economy has developed progressively. The jobs and employment, everything after 1990 has improved drastically. So I think that the socialist schemes are not yet working, and there is a time that we should have uh, removed these words. Coming to the part of secularism, what I feel is if we mention the word secularism itself, that means we are not secular. It's like you are treating everyone differently according to different means. So why don't we just treat everyone equal? We can remove the word secularism itself from that point of time. So that's the thing I would like to mention, that secularism is something that shouldn't be mentioned, and it should be implied directly. we should be secular in nature but not mention, because secular mentioning something will be used or misinterpreted in many ways. Like what I had read is there were some Andhra Pradesh government reserved 4% for Muslim jobs, or not exactly, but reserved 4% of seats, and the court had to dismiss that as unconstitutional or something. Was That is not like just because you are a minority we are giving you something. No, you earn that, you deserve that, you get that. We are not preventing you from anything. So that's the part about secularism what I would like to add. So yes, Rose, I would like to conclude my point here by saying that yes, we don't need these words right now.
Thank you so much, Ved. Great points right there. Since you said it's your first time, really appreciate the kind of clarity of speech that you had. Moving on, Atharva, your turn.
Uh,
Yeah, thank you. I would like to start by opposing the last two speakers. So I think the words should remain and they are important to manifest and highlight. Firstly, I believe that India has always been secular and socialist, even if it didn't mention in its initial constitution adoption. Um, it maybe didn't want to at those stage when the world was divided into two two ideologies in the world, the capitalism and socialism. It didn't want to manifest it that, but it should have, I believe. And preamble is not just a summary of the constitution, but it also is, I believe, it it gives the authority, it decides the authority, like who is giving, like we the people of India. So I think uh, what India practices in constitution is very different forms from the Westerners, like uh, socialism and communism, um, which are two, which is a very Western concept. But in socialism, like we have the means to a production, the state owns, but it doesn't enforce this, or like we don't. In communism, we don't even give. Uh, in communism, we don't give access to private property, but that is not the case, and we need to highlight that. Um, in terms of secularism, I think the Western secularism is such that the state is does not interfere in any of the matters, and that is their concept. But India's point of view is like it treats everyone equally, and that it needs to highlight. And therefore, preamble also being a important deciding authority, I think they should remain and should not be removed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Atharva. Uday, please go ahead.
okay, I would like to counter the points said by previous speakers. So one of the speakers said about defining the word socialism. So we are very clear about the word socialism. There was a, famous case of Keshwan and Bharti versus State of Kerala, 1973. In that case, the word socialist was, and socialist and socialism was were described, and it was defined, and the definition is very clear in India and for all the people, because that case defined, and that clearly says that socialist word is its meaning is economic justice, welfare of the people, and state's role in providing that welfare and having that welfare scheme to providing the basics necessities like roti kapda makan and healthcare and education. So uh, uh, that also reject the Western Western idea of class conflicts and bloody revolution. And that also says that Indian socialism, the definition said by Keshwan and Bharti case, doesn't have a kind of a class revolution and the bloody revolution which the Western and the Russian definition has. So we are very clear about the definition. So he said that cause the Western philosophy is that that's why we should remove it. So we are our definition is clear. So his points, the counter of his points are there. And another part, another thing about is that preamble is also part of a constitution, and preamble is a very important part of a constitution because it could not be changed. The same case is about the thing. And wait a minute, I've actually written uh, some things. Another speaker said about that the words are like that. That was a funny thing for me. He said that these words are still needed, so they have not worked. So needed and they have not worked. He said that these were words should be removed because we should be a government should work like that because government don't work. Government, the constitution is a we could say it's a beacon through which government sees that how should they work. So he said that we should be removed. We should remove the word socialist, and government should work like socialist. So if we remove the word, how could government work like a socialist? Because the constitution is a guiding path and shows the path and principles through which the government should work. If we remove the from that words, how can the government which will be formed the for the future governments, how could they will be knowing that how these how the government should be run. And about secularism, the word secularism is in also the mature democracies like US. They also have the word secularism. Some people could argue that they have achieved the secularism. They haven't removed the word secularism, but the word should be there. That person have argued that we should be remove the word because we should work and achieve those things. But we should be having have those words. So that's the thing I would like to say. Handing over to.
Thank you so much, Uday. Next up will be Saju.
Okay. I what I wanted to say is actually covered by the previous speakers. Uh, see, we have to. I think we have to take a step back and first define what is the constitution and what is the preamble. So, if let's say the constitution doesn't mention that our state should be honest and our society should be peace loving, that doesn't mean that our society is not peace loving and our state is not honest. Um, see, the word socialist was introduced later on, but I sway with the people who say that that word is not necessary because that is inherent and understood by the people of India. Not with the people, I don't stand with the people who say that that word is not congruent to or not aligned with the dreams of the people of India. In fact, all states all over the world aspire to become socialist in the truest form. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, Saju. Next up will be Jag Roshan.
Yeah, hello guys. So like whatever thoughts in my were in my mind is like basically conveyed by my previous speakers, but I have some. Okay, so Uday, I'm pretty much aligned with the Uday on this point of like there's no point of removing because constitution in itself is secular and socialist. Uh, so I like to resemble it with this thing. So what what's the, like my previous speaker just mentioned, Sanju, I guess, Saju. So that what is the difference between like constitution and preamble? So for me, like let me highlight the word. It's like a book, right? So and preamble is like cover. So whatever in the inside the book, the cover reflects the same. So until and unless we are going to change the laws in a way that it will reflect that, okay, now it is no more socialist, now it is no more, what is the other thing? Secular, then we can change the heading of that front page. If we keep changing the front page, doesn't reflect like it doesn't mean anything. It's like nonsense if it is not reflecting in the book. It's what is want to convey, right? And second point that was mentioned, that yeah, preamble, like there is no execution in the sense, like you can't use the preamble in an enforceable manner, right? Laws, it can be used, it is used, but preamble you can't enforce it by removing and adding stuff. uh, and someone mentioned that socialism, like in socialism are economic, in the terms of economics, right? But I have add on that socialism are not only sorry, no, political. It's more of a political system. But the addition is that socialism are both political and in economic sense, like communism, just like communism, it reflects the communism and political as well. Same as socialist, it's socialism, political and economic. It goes in both ways. Uh, so the here what is let us just I want to ask a very simple question, like what you feel, like what you think, what is going to, like if today, what is going to be the implication of removing the word secular, like our government, like let's say our Supreme Court or government removes the word secular from that our preamble, how it is going to be interpreted? The blow that will come to us is that it will be considered as like Hindu Rashtra is being enforced, and like Hinduism, because obviously it was considered in that way only. So socialism, you can I can see, yeah, you can try to remove and whatever, but removing the secular is like, to in today's world, is going to have a big blow in our faces in terms of maybe unrest or whatever. So yeah, with this point, I want to rest my, yeah, that is all.
Thank you, Jag Roshan. I will now let Prince go ahead.
Yeah, great points by previous speakers. I'll just say that okay, you can add 10 words to the preamble. You can add egalitarian and whatnot, but are these words only in letter or are we actually practicing it? Everyone has spoke about the different definitions of socialism, whether it be the communist definition. I don't think anyone here agrees that we agree with the Western or the communist definition of socialism, of violent revolution or private ownership of means of production. I mean, that's completely a weird idea, let's say, in the present capitalist society. The second one being Gandhian socialism. Now, many people actually advocated that India follows Gandhian socialism, but in practice, are we actually following it? Because Gandhian socialism focused on keeping panchayats at the center, panchayats and municipalities, sorry. And at the time where panchayats and municipalities are broke and are on the verge of, many are on the verge of collapse, where only 3% of the state's spending is being done at the panchayat or municipal level. Up, approx 17% of employment is at municipal level, in which also the executive head is airdropped from the All India services. I guess one of the members of Constituent Assembly rightly pointed it out that it was K. Hanuman Nathia or something like that. He said that this is exactly the kind of constitution Mahatma Gandhi did not want and did not envisage. So let's get it clear: our constitution is not Gandhian, so, in view of the Gandhian socialist as well. Someone said that Keshav Nand Bharti clearly defines the word socialism in our constitution, where they also said that the government should do these kind of stuff. I guess he was referring to democratic socialism. Now, with the new economic policy of 1991 of the LPG reforms that everyone is aware of, has heavily diluted the socialist credentials of the Indian state. So, are we actually socialist in any form of the definition that there exists? So again, these are just empty words which hold no value in the whole scheme of things. So well, whether it is there or not actually has zero value, because uh, I guess Uday pointed out several things that were socialist in nature in our Indian constitution, and he rightly said that all of those are in part 3 of the constitution. But all of those are non-judiciable, and we cannot go to the courts for those rights. These are just words that are not made into practice as of now. So, as of today, that is 18th of January 2025, India is not socialist in any way, shape, or form. I mean, we do not have even a socialist civil code. Additionally, India does have freedom of religion mentioned in the part two of the Indian. No, actually, the DPSP is part four. Sorry, the Fundamental Rights Act part three. The freedom of religion is mentioned in the part three of our constitution. Uh, but is that actually secularism? And is there actual true freedom of religion in our state? Because the temples are not free to exercise their own rights. The temple are heavily under the political influence of the state, and the state ministers in many times or shape of many shapes control the temples. The mosques are not free because their funding is directly associated with the Indian state, and in many times the whole practice of the Islam as a religion comes under threat when uh, there is an executive which kind of restricts the funds allocation to those mosques. Same is the case with Christianity. The churches are heavily dependent on the state for their funds. So, in what way are those religions free to practice their own way of worship? Yes, they can do things that they like, but the institutions that dictate their religion are heavily under the control of the Indian state, whether it be any religion. Additionally, to end, I guess someone said USA uses the word secularism in its constitution. I mean, they can, because the US is secular. There is a complete separation of state and religion. Religion is a private sphere thing in the US. Yeah, Rose.
Thank you so much, Prince. Great points. Next up will be Ved.
Yeah, thank you, Rose. So, yes, I actually somewhat agree to what Prince said, and he has rightly mentioned many of the points that I was going to mention. And yes, as someone said about Keshan and Bharti, so I would like to mention that was the case in 1973, whereas these words were added in 1950. So that's the thing, that after we have the distinction, we should have, I guess, one more round of distinction of debate of thinking whether the meaning of these words still hold what were thought in 1950 of those. And also further, as mentioned by Prince, that yes, the government is actually not working socialist, and rather than mentioning or not mentioning those words will not have any much value in the constitution. Just a second, just give me.
Sure, does anybody want to continue while he's gone?
There will be many takers. I can go.
Okay, Saju.
See,
Uh,
I think
Hello, Rose.
no. Someone wants to speak. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, someone had just commented. Okay, so wherever, so I was coming to the word of secularism. So as mentioned by Prince also, secular, the word itself means that there is a separation of religion and state. And what we are treating secularism, what India is basically treating is giving equal respect for all religions. So that's not how the word secularism should be used. And despite the word secularism, there are many rights we have seen. There are many cases that we have seen. And someone, and what I feel, as everyone said, that preamble is the cover or the summary of the constitution. What so anyone will just defy, or someone outside India will say that India is not secular since these many riots are happening or these many cases are happening, or the case of Ayodhya, let's say section 370, anyone will say yes, India is not secular. So rather than mentioning it directly on the cover page and defaming India, we should think it as an implied case, what I will say. So those are my points. You can continue.
Thank you, Ved. Saju, you were saying something?
Uh, yeah, I think our forefathers introduced or thought about secularism. Uh, Hold on, Rose, that secularism word is still, yeah, it is part of the topic, right? Yes. So our forefathers talked and thought about the word secularism in an aspirational way, and that's why it is there in the preamble. The meaning of secularism is inherent knowledge to everyone, which is tolerance of different religions, right? That is how unique Indian society is, and all over the world, it is one of the few places where that is practiced. So um, it is not useful to discuss whether it should be there or whether it should be not there, because the preamble is an introductory statement to what the constitution is, right? The constitution is what represents what we think and feel as a people. Otherwise, secularism as a word, it can be understood, it can be felt, it can be defined as a behavior, but it cannot be imposed. It can never be imposed.
Thank you, Saju. I'll now let Jag Roshan go ahead.
Yeah, hello again. So I'm hearing this word about this about the US uh, as a mature constitution, as a you know, uh, I just had a question that why we don't think that India is also a mature, or in my perspective, it is even more mature than US, uh, or you can say in the similar lines. So same. So uh, the thing that I think India is a very prime example of secular nation. The beauty of India and the beauty of the Indian constitution. Uh, so it is, I think it is the only country where we have a majority, like the majority in terms of religion, the people with majority majority religion. Like there was a case that Ayodhya temple, like where their god was sitting in the tent, residing in a tent for so long, and they have to fight up with, and the court to get that. India is the only country that has this, where in other part of the world, the majority people just take over and they do whatever they want to, however they want to do. In US also, the white peoples and blacks. I don't think I need to explain that. So and another example, and I don't want any fuss about it, that it's the only country where a god in the, like, cow is worshipped, but in other parts it is kind of slaughtered. And so the beauty, I'm just telling that the beauty of India, and this is our constitution being secular, is such that we are even par of the US. Rather saying that US has a more mature constitution, I don't align with that. view. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jagroshan. I may have to personally disagree on some things. Like India definitely has a sort of distinct beauty to it, but at the same time, secularism. I don't think India can be called like the prime example of secularism if that is what you were talking about, because secularism basically, the proper definition of secularism defines two things. One is that the state gives equal status, opportunities, and freedom to all religion. And two is that state and religion are two different things. But then there is a lot of, I think, I don't believe that all religions have like the same sort of freedom. Equal status, yes. Equal opportunities to some extent, yes. But equal freedom, probably not. Out of the things I have seen like firsthand. And two, I don't think India is a country where religion is separated from state. It is at least indirectly, if not directly, the same thing, because we see a lot of vote banks are built based on religion. Like that is the thing I wanted to put out there. Next up will be Ved.
Yeah, Rosa, what you mentioned, I guess, is what I was going to say. But yeah, you are correctly mentioning that although Jagroshan mentioned a lot of things that might beautify India or might show the good parts of India, but someone who, as a person who is living currently in India and seeing these things around them, we will call ourselves as not a secular nation. And even if we remove the part of the thing that state and religion different, just focus on the part that all the religions should be treated equally or all treated equally, I don't think that even that part is not being followed adequately. As mentioned earlier also, the cases of many cases, section 370 Ayodhya, anyone would have a counter for that, that India is still
Yeah.
not being a secular nation. Yeah.
um Thank you, Ved. I think Sachin was trying to speak something, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, ma'am. I would like to counter, and my counter is that it is true that we have uh, some bias towards some minority communities because of vote bank, and that's why we say India isn't a secular country in practice. But still, we even if we are not secular in practice, we can't remove that word. See, if we remove that word, it will create a very wrong perception in minorities will feel that now bias is being legalized and if they feel that we are constitutionally being biased, that will cause a heavy unrest. So remove, and also it gives a perception, at least in the academic arena and legal arena, that because there is a word secular, we can't do anything very bad to minorities. If we remove that, there will be perception that we can do anything to every minorities. So even if we are not, we should do something to inculcate that secular behavior by educating our population. But we should not try even touch that secular word, otherwise it will be heavy blow to the minorities and integrity of India. I would like to listen other points from my other participants.
Thank you so much, Sachin. Please be sure to raise your hand next time before you speak. Thank you. Next up will be Saju. Saju.
Okay. I thought I was next after that. Okay. See, it's if anybody has read the different, like maybe a few articles written into the Constitution, um, they will know the complexity in representing that whole constitution in the preamble. So the word secularism is a very wide, casts a very wide net, and um, the word socialism is actually misunderstood to be, state ownership of various things. The word socialism means accountability, not the responsibility of the state. For example, in the US is a capitalist economy, and capitalism provides for the various social initiatives in the US, and the government supports that to happen. And still, the US has a very good social welfare schemes, though they themselves don't call themselves as socialists, but they are socialist. Um, they have safety nets in place, to take care of many things. So the danger with India was that, our forefathers, our freedom fighters, they knew that if we are not careful, then our freedom movement will simply replace the Britishers with locally grown Britishers, someone who wants to come and take all the power and then have all the money to themselves, and they don't care about the people. So, and that is how the constitution was crafted. So that, truly the constitution is the only thing um, that stands between the people and a belligerent authoritative state. Our Indian government, or what you call the state, the Indian government is very very authoritative. It has got all the powers. It can do anything to its citizens, right? We have given it so much powers. But the constitution is what stands between them and the people. Uh, that is, I think, that in itself is misunderstood a lot. People think that constitution is just a defining document of what the state does. Um, but it is the basis on which we fought our independence, right? Um, yeah, that's my limited point.
Thank you, Saju. Jagroshan, your turn.
Uh, yeah, hello guys. So I find it very interesting to get a blow by taking a stand of praising the beauty of India or Indian Constitution. So let's just so the what I wanted to talk about that someone said that it is that secular and socialist are added at the time of emergency by the Indira Gandhi government. So my take on this is that even if it is imposed or added at that time of emergency, why nobody care to remove it after the emergency? Like it has been so long. If it is such a bad or not aligned with us or our constitution, why it is not removed? So that means it is reflecting like it is going with the constitution. That's why maybe there might be some debates here and there. Maybe I don't know about the whether it's happened in parliament or not. Uh, where removing of this socialist and secular, or at least one of them. So yeah, that's my take. That why it is not why nobody cares to remove later if it is that harmful, not harmful, like it is not good or whatever. So yeah, thank you.
Does anybody wish to answer that?
Yeah, because it was the preamble where it was added, right? So whether it is there or not there, it doesn't matter at all.
Okay. So that was also one of my point that there is no point of removing writing. So yeah, okay, nice.
Actually, it's
Uh,
not that easy. Yes, Rose, you want to continue?
no, wait. Please go on.
So, Prince, actually, it can say, we can say, like we can amend constitutions, but preamble is not that easy to amend. If anyone had followed, even saw the movie Section 370, how difficult was, to change that even one law, and preamble is even more difficult than that. So having just removing even one, two words is not that easy process. It requires a lot of laws and constitutions and laws of lot of legal processes are involved. So I think that those might, and that thing is like definition of India we have, and if we are changing the definition of India every decade, and so I don't think anyone outside India would ever think that India stands or holds to true to its words. That I would like to mention.
Okay, thank you, Ved. Jagroshan, I would like to add that regardless of the fact that any of us agree or disagree on keeping those two words in the preamble, I think the counter to your statement was due to the fact that you said that India was a prime example of secularism. I think that was where people actually countered you, not because they wanted to keep the words or not keep the words. If that gives you more clarity. Um,
Yeah, fine.
and thank you. Moving on, Ved, it's your turn.
Yes, yes. So I guess someone had mentioned here that removing the word secular would cause a lot of it will not be good for the minorities or not be good for the riots. It will cause a lot of riots and those things. But yeah, I it might be true. I'm not disagreeing to that statement. But what I have seen from past years or what the government has done, it has taken a very bold approach, strong approach, yet it is getting result, and yet people are believing still in them. If again I would like to mention 2 3 points of Section 370. Even after it was being imposed, still after the elections, the government who imposed that had a major win in that state. So I think there is a different party of or category of people within those minorities that are trying to misuse so and so situation or so and so words of secularism, but majority of the people, I think, are enjoying the rights of it and have no issues with that. And even like the case of, I guess, Ayodhya, what I will say is, yeah, if someone agrees that, someone might counter me by saying that, the BJP government removed the, gave the verdict in favor of Ayodhya, yet they lost there. But I guess if, I don't know what exactly was the reason, but what I heard of, it was the locals were not very happy with that decision. And that caused, disagreement among among the people, the locals living there had to vacate their homes and move somewhere else. But that was nowhere regarding to minorities fighting or minorities getting uh, stressed out about the things that they are not getting equal rights in India, and so those points I would like to mention. Yeah.
Thank you, Ved. Um, Prince, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Rose. So, first of all, I'm very confused. I'm not able to get the reference of Section 370. uh, Additionally, Saju said about USA, and I'll just speak briefly because it's not the topic, that the US is also a socialist state. No, it's not. They are carrying out those welfare schemes as part of the neoliberal ideas that US believes in. It has nothing to do with socialism. Additionally, on the removal part, that why were those words not removed? Uh, because a majority of what was imposed in the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act 1976, the majority of actual provisions that gave state unlimited power was removed by Constitutional Amendment Act 44th. Now, why it was not removed? Because it has no real, I guess, value, because it gave neither any power to the state nor it restricted the state from carrying out any activity. So yeah, it was just It was just not, I guess, priority or of any use to remove it or keep it. On the religion part, I actually believe there is enough secularism in India, but in a different sense. Secularism is about freedom of religion, or the if we go by the Indian definition, if we go by the Western definition, then it's non-exclusionary of state and religion. But according to Indian definition, it's about freedom of religion, and all religion in India are equally exploited. I mean, when the majority, which accounts for 75 to 80% of your population, has no economic freedom to the money they receive as part of religious donations, then what economic or religious freedom are we talking about? Is religious freedom just tolerance? If secularism is associated with tolerance, that okay, you can practice your own religion, then yes, India is a perfect secular state. But if secularism is truly about freedom of religion or a complete independence of the ways of practicing your own religion uh, uh, or administering your religious affairs, then in no way, shape, or form is India a secular state. I mean, the whole of religion institutionally is being controlled by the state, no matter whether it's Hinduism, Muslim, Christianity, Jainism, Sikhism, Buddhism. There's no independence whatsoever. Yeah, Rose.
Thank you so much, Prince. And personally, since we are talking about how these terms were added in a period of when the Indian state was in a state of emergency during the Indira Gandhi government, let's talk about a bit of brief context. So, the term secular was added obviously during Indira Gandhi's government, and it was done to emphasize the unity that is required to ensure that all people residing inside the Indian state are safe, and that religion is not interfering with governance, right? 1976 was the emergency period, and that is when this was added. And this was to prevent communal violence. I think we also know that she was pretty much involved in the Punjab region. I need not elaborate more on that. So it was a measure towards preventing communal violence in a state of emergency. And then socialism, at that point, I think it is a known fact that India was suffering visibly from poverty, and her governance was really of a socialist nature, and we are well aware of the slogan that she used, that was Garibi Hatao. And under those kind of situations, such implementations were pretty much justified. And then moving on, when all of these emergency states were slowly alleviated, we still see a need for especially secularism, because India or Indian government, not talking about any political party in particular, but the Indian government somehow seems to be colliding with religion, one religion or another, directly or indirectly. Vote banks are based on religion, and parties use religion as a form of attracting people towards getting them into power. And apart from that, the discrimination or the I don't know, cannot even call it discrimination. I think the cornering of people is not based on just religion in India. We have seen it based on caste as well. In such a case, I think secularism really is the need of the hour. And by secularism, I mean implemented secularism, not just secularism on paper in the preamble of the constitution. So that is something I wanted to put out there.
Rose, can I have 10 seconds?
Sure.
Yeah. So you rightly said that Indira ma'am had a great socialist nature of governance, but that is just her style of governance. That's not the nature of the Indian state, and I don't think these words should be added into constitution just because a politician had a specific way of governance. I mean, we should remember that India is not Indira, and Indira is not India.
For sure, India was never Indira and India will never be Indira. She is long gone. The reason why I said that was because there were so many refugees coming in, and the communal violence due to her being involved with the whole Punjab situation. At that point, to prevent certain things and to uplift certain sections from poverty, that socialist style of governments really seem to align with that particular situation. And hence, adding socialism into the preamble at that point was justified, and not because Indira did it, but that situation called for it. What do you say, Prince?
Yeah, I do agree. I'll let others speak there. I think that.
Thanks.
Well,
So
wonderful.
yeah, Uday, you can
It
go
was
ahead.
a Yes, it was a very good point, and uh, uh, that why these two words were added. That was a need of an hour, and Rose who described it wonderfully that it was actually necessary to add those two words at that time, and India needed that. So that is a great point by Rose. And I would like to counter a point. I'm forgetting the speaker's name, but he said that governments like one religion, particularly Hinduism, and temples money is managed by government. All the other religions temples money are not governed by the uh, government. So for that, I would like to say that anywhere where the money is involved, government will never leave that money. So there's four big temples of Hinduism. One of them is Somnath. I'm from Gujarat, so I could say that the temple trustee of the Somnath Mandir is our Prime Minister Narendra Modi. There are many temples of Gujarat where the trustee is Narendra Modi sir or Home Minister Amit Shah sir. I also have a temple here. The trustee of that temple is a local MLA. So anywhere where the money is involved, these people would never ever leave the single penny. And we knew why. So we cannot say that the politicians should like they will never leave the money because uh, uh, there's a uh, there's a comparison that biggest company of our country, Hindustan Unilever, there are many temples who make more money, who has more money than these companies' total profit and their market capitalization. So politicians, will they leave the temple management? I don't think so. That's going to happen. So that's what I would like to.
Thank you, Uday. Saju, please go ahead.
Uh, See, I want to separate the different stakeholders involved in a running of a democratic nation called India, and that's where I think we can understand the constitution. So there is the people, that is the people of India, and who reside in this continent within certain political borders, and there is the a government, which is a state machinery, which is employed by the people of India through funds that they themselves provide. And then within the state government machinery, we have the, unfortunately, it is within the government machinery, which is the executive, which executes on the various diktats and initiatives by the people, is so decided by the people of India. Then there is, of course, the judiciary, which is which keeps a watch over the functioning of the government. So these are, and then there is the the police and security aspects of things, which are again can be considered as part of the government machinery. So, and then there is the people of India also chooses certain representatives from within themselves called the legislature to speak on their behalf and pass laws and rules and on the governance aspect of the on the functioning of the state, and on the usage of the taxes and on new laws. So these are the three, four different stakeholders, right? So out of these three, four stakeholders, we have to, all of us has to first understand that the most important stakeholder in this is the people of India. And now the people of India is a large mass of people, like 140 crores, right? And this 140 crores, when it was 35 crores, and were governed by a small number of how many 35 lakh British troopers who came across the seven seas. Our freedom fighters understood that there is a problem, which is the entire 140 crore or 35 crore at that time of 1947 have to be brought under one set of ideas which covers or forms a consensus among the people. Only then we can have the people controlling the government, the people controlling the legislature, and creating laws which can be understood by the judiciary. The the beautiful aspect of our great nation is that the judiciary is completely independent. I don't think anywhere it is so. The collegian system of the judiciary ensures that even if there is backhand dealings or corrections happening judiciary, they ensure, even then it is ensuring that the judiciary keeps to the written law which is laid down by the people of India through the legislative, right? So the problem then happens how to direct everyone to do their job, and that is where the constitution comes in, right? And that is why every word has become so sensitive and so important. And the difficulty is not in the legal aspects of removing or addition or procedural aspects. It is how to build consensus among the 140 crore population about uh, the use of every word in the constitution, right? What does secularism mean? I mean, can we have an elected prime minister handle the state of affairs of a temple? Why not? I mean, he is a citizen after all. There is a group of people who will argue that way, right? So same case with many other such positions, and these arguments have to be done in the parliament, right? Unfortunately, as it stands today, what is happening is that people themselves have started taking sides, um, and they have started taking sides of the legislative which they themselves have appointed, which is the unfortunate part, right? And there is division among the people, which is causing all the issues. If there was no division, if yeah, my time's up. If there was no division, then we would not be sitting here talking about this actually. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Saju. Yeah, I'll first let Jagroshan go ahead and then speak my mind.
Okay, so actually, I have a question on that. We were discussing that it was added during the emergency time. So my question is, adding those words, secular and socialist, like really helped in any way at that time, or like on the ground, like it any done any good, anything on basically people were saying on the Punjab unrest. Right. And the second thing that I just I wonder why these words, especially the secular, was not added earlier, like at the during the making of the constitution. Is it that we were not secular at that time? Yeah.
I would like to answer both of the topics. So, if you look at the preamble, it was actually preamble was somewhat modified and some things were removed. It was basically taken from Nehru. Nehru written a paragraph like a guiding principle in 1935. I may be wrong. 1932 to 35, there it was that Nehru roots of guiding principle and guiding things like how a country should be. He wrote, and the secular was a part of that note he wrote, and it was taken, and some things were modified and some things were removed, but the basic structure and the basic things like socialist and those things were took. So yeah, when we were making the constitution, secular and socialist, both words were discussed, and secular word was actually removed by the makers of the Constitution. And another part was you asked like, whether it worked or not. Of course, it worked. We have removed so many people out of poverty, and socialist nature of government has actually made the thing good for a country. And secularism, we could say that the uh, mm, rights and other things were more after the word was added. But overall, we could say that the problem that we had that time was temporarily solved. But after we have said some demolitions and some terrorist attacks, that actually lead to some other religious problem and problems related to secularism. But government had very less problem with secularism and the secular world. So that's I want to say.
Thank you, Uday. So the thing I wanted to address was that on paper we do know that there are like said organs of the government and that the judiciary is an independent one. But at the end of the day, I don't think that's the question. And of course, people are the strongest force at play when it comes to choosing a government. But how far are we gone on the path that we are choosing government and representatives on the basis of religion? This is a real problem. And even if we as individuals are not choosing based on religion, the vast majority of the Indian population, regardless of being literate, illiterate, urban, or rural, is doing this. And that is where the key problem comes into play. And that is why secularism needs to be implemented instead of being printed on the introductory statement of the constitution, is what I have to say. At that point, it was the need of the hour. I don't have a very strong opinion on socialism in the current scenario. But on secularism, I think it still remains the need of the hour. Religion needs to be separated from state if the state has to flourish, because it gives an opportunity for the government to exploit people using their religious sentiments and things cannot be. This is not a religious organization. We are talking about a country with diverse people who care more about employment and opportunities of other sorts than religion, right? Freedom of religion and non interference of government inside of religion is secularism and should be implemented instead of just being printed on a piece of paper. But at the same time, what we as citizens should care more about is the kind of opportunities and the kind of life and the kind of taxation we have inside of this country. And that is not possible until we take our minds off of this religious form of governance and this religious form of brainwashing that we have, and actually focus on what matters. Anybody's free to counter that.
I would rather agree.
Do you have anything else to say, Uday, since your hand is raised?
No.
Okay, thank you. So it's 12:25. If you people have any concluding statements, you can raise your hand and go ahead. Please go ahead, Jagro.
Yeah, so it is more in the line of that we kind of complain about uh, political system or this or that. The way you were started also your. So what I wanted to emphasize here that we are literally given the power by our constitution that we can be governing our like we can go to the top, that there are ladders, like we literally can go to the top of, and we can be the PM, we can be the MP, we can be anything. If we want to change, why we say complain about it, oh he's not doing that, he is not what that is going towards that religious path, and the government is religious or something like that. Instead, if we are really wanted to make change, we have the power given by our constitution that we can go and we can emphasize, we can whatever the way, it's just the process might be longer, whatever you can argue with that. Okay, it is not that easy and all, but we literally have given that power in our hands, that anybody can go to that top level. Yeah, thank you.
So I would like to conclude. First, I would say that democracy, when democracy was made, that was one of the things which were discussed was that people should be informed and educated how they should be choosing their representative. So our country never did that. So that is a lack that our country had, that we never taught people how to choose a representative, never taught them what's your right, what's your power you have given. So, and on this topic, I would like to say that these both words, whether should be removed or kept, even if we remove, there's no point of it because our constitution is already socialist and secular. Those who are in favor of removing, I think we should remove, and those who are in against in removing, we should keep them. So that's my conclusion, that it doesn't matter because the constitution is already secular and already socialist. Adding or removing will not hamper or will not change anything. The government schemes are already running. They were also run with a when we didn't had the word in constitution. We also had the government schemes running back then in 1960 also, and we also have right now. And about secularism, our country is secular. The partition was made on the point of secularism, that whether we want a country which is secular or a religious country. So that's my conclusion.
Thank you there. Ved, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Rose. So I would like to add some more points in my conclusion statement. So, like, even though we have decided on a lot of things, whether it should be added, not added, but we should remember that changing a preamble is not so an easy task. It's a it's kind of a legal battle. So even though if we go for it, what I would suggest is that we can go for the change of the word socialism, because that word I don't think is relevant in the current situation, as mentioned by many speakers, Indira Gandhi era or the Western definition of socialism, all those things, and concluding those statements, I feel that it should not be there. Secular, the word secular, I feel that it should be still there because we have yet not achieved that situation, and there are many things that needs to be done to achieve the word of secular nature. And also it might or might not cause riots as a different discussion, but I'll still have it because India is a democratic country with many religions, many castes, and everyone should feel that they are equally respected. So I feel the word secular should still be there. And yes, that's my concluding statement for this debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Ved. Is there anybody else who still has a concluding statement to make? If you still got a concluding statement, this is your last chance. All right. In that case, it is 12:30 p.m. and that marks the end of the moderated debate session. And in a second, the recording will be stopped, and that will be the commencement of the unmoderated session. That is more of a discussion. So if you're staying for the unmod session, you'll not need to raise your hands anymore, and you can speak as you wish to, but in a respectful manner and without interrupting any other speaker. Thank you.